Thank you, Allison and John. It was such a dear invitation to be asked to be with you all tonight. And I greet you all as friends, old friends, new friends, possible friends, always friends. And I feel very lucky to have spent so many summer days with Allison at Tassajara in California, and to know Zen Buddhism as a tremendous refuge for us. And I thank you for letting me be in your company. Uh, I've been thinking about the whole interest I've always had in religion a lot lately, because I've been writing about my mother who died on Thanksgiving. And I gave a little tribute about her at a local event recently. And it started with, my mother was a seeker all her life. And so was my father. They were from two sides of the world. My father was Palestinian Arab from a Muslim family in Jerusalem. My mother was German Swiss from a Lutheran family in St. Louis. And the two of them, nevertheless, decided at young ages that they did not want to practice the religions of their parents and families. And people were surprised later to hear that really that was much easier for my father. He suffered no anger from his family when he made that pronouncement, quite young, at the age of 12, I think. And my mother made it at the age of 18, and she suffered a lot. Her parents refused even to attend her own marriage or be very warm to her for years, because she had made this decision to go out and seek and study other faiths, other paths. And I think one of the things that attracted these two very different people to one another was their curiosity about ways of being in the world, ways of doing, ways of seeing, and certainly belief systems, faith systems. In some regards, I think for all of my childhood, I think my father was much more interested in Christianity than my mother was, because she had had it sort of rammed into her from birth, and said, no, I don't believe this is the only way, because the synod of Lutheranism that her parents belonged to was a very strict Missouri Synod part of Lutheranism. And since then, many Lutheran practitioners have told me, we're not all like that. We're not all as strict or as rejecting of others as that particular synod was, especially in those days, in the 1950s and early 60s. So I grew up with seeking parents, curious parents. They went to lectures. The great theologian Houston Smith was a very close friend of our family, and he encouraged them. He would write a book that we used in college as our text, World Religions Handbook. He encouraged them to keep seeking, and they were very attracted to Buddhism and to Vedanta, and they were just open-minded. So by the time I had grown up, hearing many things, attending Bible school in the summers, because my mother thought it was important for people to know Bible stories, have Christian references, but also going to the Vedanta every Sunday. There was a sense of curiosity they had passed on to me anyway. So by the time I was a religion major was when I really felt that the path which appealed most to me was Zen Buddhism, and that was my travel down that path of reading and thinking. So being open to many ways of seeing, I guess, was conducive to my life, which had already started as a poet too, very young. And, of course, with poetry, we're interested in perspective. Something happens. How do we see it? How does our neighbor see it? how does our family members see it? Everyone sees it a little differently. And it all went together for me. I never felt fractured or confused amongst the many possibilities. And, having a life with poetry is, I think, a very precious kind of attunement, because you believe from early childhood that details matter, that undersung, unobtrusive, subtle little happenings are exquisite and beautiful in their own ways. You are always looking around to see what's there. You don't wait for things to happen, really. You just wander around in a pleasant state of observation a lot of the time. I often feel that when I walk around my neighborhood. We live in the inner city, a very old neighborhood in downtown San Antonio. And just feeling, the movement of the river and knowing the histories that have passed through different houses and seeing the trees change over the years. All of this becomes a worthy context. It's the stuff of life that poets care about. And so the human stories and dramas that happen in the midst of everything we live amongst that doesn't belong to anyone in some ways. I often appreciate the sky the way that it belongs to all of us equally. And I've always appreciated those kinds of things, growing up on the Mississippi River and seeing that river go under the bridges, and thinking about, Huck Finn and Mark Twain and all the people who had had relationships with that river, and seeing the boats go up and down the river. I mean, there was that sense of what belongs to everybody here. That's what I'm curious about. It was not a sense of what can I get, or how much can I have, or how big can my house be ever, but how much could I notice? And I remember as a child really thinking about a big life. How do you have a big life? And a big life had something to do with horizon. What was the span of your horizon? Was it a tight little, this is the only good neighborhood horizon, or was it a vast horizon that would have room for many people, many possibilities?